Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics.
Well, hello, Drewling Samantics fans. It's me, Little Drew here, back undercover after my adventures outside last week. And where's my mate? Where is he? There he is.
Here I am. Hello, mate. I am here as well, also undercover. And as much as it's kind of a necessity to be able to record, I have to say I'd much rather not be undercover because it's still bloody hot, mate, isn't it?
Jeez. Isn't it, mate? Isn't it just? Whoa.
I mean, but we shouldn't complain. We should be making the most of the weather. And once I've escaped this sweltering studio, I will certainly be doing that.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, I wasn't going to say this actually, but no, I think it's an interesting point to make. You know, you sometimes see or hear about people that they're on the Zoom call or they're doing an interview on Skype or Teams or whatever, and they've got shirt, tie, suit jacket, all neat and tidy. And then down the bottom, they're a bit more casual because obviously they're cropping in the video. I'm going to have to confess, mate, I'm just in my pants. It's that warm in the studio that I've gone shirt, nice up top, looking all right. And then down the bottom is definitely cooler than it appears. And I've shocked you.
Don't worry. I hadn't broken up there. I hadn't frozen. I was just stunned into silence as I conjured up the image of what I can't see on the screen. And all I would say is, for the benefit of not only myself, but anyone viewing, please, Sam, do not stand up, mate. Just
what, you mean
know.
that?
Don't even think about it.
It's right. I'm not going to. No. I wouldn't subject anyone to that unnecessarily.
Brilliant. Well, I mean, I'll keep that. I have to say, though, I mean, you're looking good. You're looking, so, you're looking fine there. So
it's very kind of you. I mean, I've been doing some modelling, so hence why perhaps I'm looking a bit more trim than I might normally. So I've been doing a bit of modelling work alongside sort of other bits and pieces. But you've just you finished the show. How's your week after finishing the show been?
Lovely. I mean, so we finished the show at the weekend, which was great. We had two lovely shows. I would just like to say, possibly the hottest I've ever been on stage. On Saturday matinee, one of the stage crew took a temperature reading, and it was 29 degrees on stage with no cover. And at one point, I appear with I've got a worsted suit on, shirt, tie, raincoat, and hat. Totally unnecessary. But we did. I mean, we lost a couple of audience members as well because there is no cover for the audience. In fine weather, fantastic. In the rain, not great. And in the heat on Saturday as well, a couple of people went, it's too hot. We're just going to have to, and I understand that for health reasons. Yeah. But we had a very successful ending of the run, which was great not only for the company but for Brighton Open Air Theatre, because it has no subsistence of any. It receives no funds. It survives purely on ticket sales and donations. So we had good audiences who gave good donations, but good ticket sales, which was great. So
amazing. Well, congrats, mate. I'm very
thank you very much. It was a really lovely show to do. Had enormous fun. Lost a couple of pounds in sweat, but hey, I'll make it.
As long as you're replacing that now by keeping hydrated, mate. I've got my traditional clear liquid on the go today.
I've got a coloured liquid, otherwise known as orange squash, because it is far too hot to drink this early in the day. But
no cold beers in the fridge, then I take it.
Oh no, they're there for later.
Saving them, but yeah. So other than sort of recovering and stuff, have you been up to anything much this week?
Just a little bit of admin and catching up from all the jobs that you can't do, and preparing for today, and podcasting with me buddy.
Well, yes, exactly, and today especially because we are going to be joined by another superb guest today, Mr.
Brilliant guest, yeah.
So very much looking forward to him. And actually, people may have noticed on social media, we alluded to the fact that things were going a bit wrong in Drewling Samantics HQ. And our guest today is not only a good friend of mine and a fabulous performer, but most recently he has been successful in getting things wrong.
Oh, I like that. That's a really good cryptic clue, Sam.
It's rather cryptic, but I'm not going to add any more to that or try and explain it myself. I think the easiest way for people listening in or watching us to understand exactly what I mean by that is to get him to explain it himself. So I'll tell you what, Drew, shall I let him in so he can do it?
If he's there, let's swing the doors wide and get the man in.
He's ready and waiting. So here he comes now. And there he is, my favourite shiny-headed friend, Mr. Harry Boyd is joining us. Welcome to Drewling Samantics, mate. How are you?
I am well. I'm well. Lovely to see you again.
And you, mate. Drew, this is Harry. Harry meet Drew.
Good morning, Harry. Good to see you, mate.
Thank you. Yes, you too.
Lovely to meet you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, currently watching or listening to Drewling Samantics, this is the very, very talented Harry Boyd, a man who I've worked with on several occasions previously, shared a stage in many different areas and setups, shall we say. But he is a man of many, many talents. And the best way to kind of explain that, I think, is if I just hand straight over to you, Harry, and you can kind of tell people who you are, what you do, and why you're with us.
Okay, will do. Yeah. Okay. Well, yes, I'm Harry. I'm an actor, and I do a few other things too. I'm a singer, a musician, voice actor, little bit of a fight performer when I'm allowed to be. But acting is chiefly what I'm doing. So I've been doing that forever. Can't remember a time where I wasn't doing it anymore. So about, I think, oh god, since I was about 9, or had the ability to comprehend what acting was, just did it since then. But chiefly do sort of theatre. That's always what I've been trying to do, and kind of branching into sort of more film. Trying to do a bit more kind of TV these days as well. But currently running around doing some theatre tours, which is tremendously exciting, and getting to do some comedy, and obviously getting to work with some lovely people such as yourself.
Yes. So I mean, you mentioned singing. So your background primarily was musical theatre, sort of earlier days. You're now more this particular job, which we're going to come to because it's quite an entertaining and exciting one that you're doing at the moment. We'll come to it a bit, but it's more comedic but straight theatre. But so you trained, did you train as musical theatre, or did you train as generic acting? What was your sort of background in that respect?
Yeah, I trained actually just in straight acting. I always did. I think I'd been doing music separately, sort of even longer. Like when I was a kid, my parents were quite eager for me to play like musical instruments and stuff, so I'd always kind of had a good grasp of music and playing music. And then, the singing just sort of came about just from that, to be honest. It wasn't really something I never had any lessons with. It was just, I always kind of thought I couldn't until I kind of tried it out a little bit and just kept doing it until I could do it, I suppose. So that was completely separate from the acting, weirdly enough. But naturally when those, I found that it did help a lot with the theatre, and I naturally did kind of move into more musical theatre circles, but also kind of theatre with music, which was quite a lot of, particularly with Shakespeare. I actually found there was always a lot of opportunity when we were doing Shakespeare. There'd always be an opportunity to have some music involved, whether it be sort of composing it or playing it in some capacity, or depending when you set it, obviously. But I don't know why, but there was always an opportunity for it. So that was always something that came about. But always done musical theatre, a lot of it, even when I was sort of just out of drama school. Because I went to Guildford School of Acting, which didn't do musical theatre there, but it does have a very kind of more respected musical theatre department. So I know quite a few people from that who've gone on to do fantastic stuff. But there, I was doing the MA acting course, and they packed us, 15 of us, in this little room, only one room, and they never let us out. And we couldn't go to the other exciting rooms. That was exciting. Pretty much straight out of drama school, I was doing sort of musical theatre-y kind of things and playing music, and then that eventually led me into incorporating instruments into it as well. The biggest thing was obviously the Buddy Holly musical, which I was touring around with before before the C word, got rid of it. Unfortunately, had to close early. I think it might be making a comeback potentially. I think that has been announced on social media, so that'd be exciting for people to get that back. It was inevitable when COVID did come around that we had to, pack that in, because bless them, the audience was entirely comprised of people who would be most vulnerable to it.
People that remember Buddy Holly, yeah,
yeah, exactly, yeah, who were there, or had like his records and stuff. So they were very fond of that, and they were all of a certain age. So we had to take drastic precautions to make sure everyone was okay.
Say no more, yeah.
No. But I tell you what,
you're in that vein, aren't you, Drew? You're of that age. So
easy, Tiger. Good Lord.
What was he like, Drew?
I am very aware of the man. Yeah. I wasn't exactly pumping fuel into his aeroplane, if you know what I mean. I wasn't there that much, But I know of the man. But yeah.
Yes. No, I mean, he was it was very special, particularly towards the latter half of the show. It becomes kind of more. There's a lot more music in the latter bit. And I don't think that's a spoiler, the effect it would have on people that were watching it was just it was extraordinary. The kind of energy you'd get, and because it was so beloved by so, I remember my not to make you feel bad again, Drew, but my grandfather, his one of his most prized possessions ever was this Buddy Holly, sort of what do you call them, the big discs. What are those? Records, those things, those enormous CDs. Those things. Good Lord, it's been a long. I reckon it was just his absolute prized possession. So when we do this music at the end, like people it's incredible. This wave of energy that just hits you. It's absolutely fantastic. And I was playing the trumpet in that. So finally it was good for something. I wasn't really too fond of playing the trumpet, but getting to play it in doing Buddy Holly was pretty special. So that really came home to roost.
It's a much used word, iconic. But I mean, when you look at someone, particularly to lose someone in those tragic circumstances, I mean, he was an iconic musician, and the number of songs, that music that is still around, that people, of a certain generation. I mean, my mother is of the generation. She had the singles. She had, I remember when I really was a little boy sitting on a kitchen table with one of those old-fashioned record players, and my mother and my grandmother playing the music, and a little tear would appear in their eyes, because it was like those are their pop stars. Yeah. So, I mean, not only are they iconic, but I mean, going on stage and doing something like that, you feel quite humbled and quite respectful of the subject matter you're given, But I use iconic because I think what you're doing now and the company you're working for now have, in a modern way, and we love a segue on Drewling Samantics. So that is my little segue. But who you're working for now and where you're actually on tour, and you've literally landed in a green room in Sheffield on tour this morning. We are incredibly grateful that you've literally landed. You haven't even unpacked your smalls in your digs, and here you are on Drewling Samantics.
So actually, the suitcase is just there.
Look at that! Wow. The camera swung round to show us the unpacked suitcase. But you are touring now with Mischief and The Play That Goes Wrong. I don't think there's many people, certainly many theatre goers, that don't know the show. Seen the show maybe, but know that the enormous success that Mischief have had with the various shows, The Play That Goes Wrong, The Bank Robbery, etc., etc. It has become a phenomenon, and you are part of that. What is it like to be part of this? I say this theatrical phenomenon that is and the success thereof.
I mean, it's been phenomenal. It's been. I remember seeing the show, the Play That Goes Wrong. I think it was with the second cast. They just shifted, and I think the original cast moved on to do. I think it was either Peter Pan or Bank Robbery or something like that. So, but it's just like the height of it, and just seeing it, and it was, oh goodness me, it was just I knew I've got to be in this play. It was just so innovative, and the comedy was just so, it was like a well-crafted machine. It was just the way they would set up these gags that would come back later was just masterful. They just sowed these little seeds that would come, and everything was in place. No joke was just put in there for no reason. It wasn't like it was just a random gag that didn't have a purpose. Everything always had a reason to be there, whether it be something falling off a wall or something, exploding or whatever. That it didn't just happen for no reason. I think that was the key thing that really impressed me, was that it was, this is a company that legitimately, in the world of the play, they're just trying to put on a show. That's all they're doing, is they're just trying to put on a theatre show.
Yeah.
That's the greatest comedy bit of them, not being able to do it. That's the huge joy of it, I think, and in a very, I don't want to say British kind of humour, but it is. We do enjoy laughing at people that are having a horrible time.
We love a victim in our comedy, don't we? The English love a victim. If someone's going to slip on a banana skin or get cracked on the head by a plank or something, we love that, and I think Mischief do that beautifully.
It is fun, and they do, absolutely. They tread that line wonderfully, and I think one of the things that impresses me most is just the sort of the variety of the clowns that are in play. That's something that was really brought up a little bit, very much so during the rehearsal process. They've done something really special there, and it's just so. I think it's the craftsmanship that I think is particularly impressive, and the rehearsal process was chiefly kind of focusing around this idea of clowning, and how not all clowns are very different. You've got lots of different kinds of clown. You've got the kind of very, kind of a cross-stern, kind of straight man, not straight man, but kind of, I guess, Basil-Fawlty-esque kind of clown. You've got the kind of wackier ones, sort of fearful ones, the ones that are low status, high status, and they all work together very, very well. And I think finding those characters is really interesting, because the writing does nearly all the work for you, which is marvellous. And there are certain requirements for each role, I think. You have to kind of adhere to a certain kind of set of guidelines just to make the parts work. But that doesn't mean at all that you can't be creative and you can't inject some of your own stuff. And no one does it the same. No one does it, in exactly the same way. And they just find these wonderful moments in it. So it's just so much opportunity there to just be creative and what was really exciting was that we actually had the original cast come back for 2 weeks, which was just unbelievable. So that every single one of them came back from the original show. So we had Henry Lewis, Henry Shields, Nancy Zammit, Dave Hearn, Rob Faulkner, Charlie Russell, Greg Tannehill, and Jonathan Sayer. They all came back, and all of us obviously were massive fans, of their work, and of course. It was very, very exciting coming back. They were
stage royalty there with you. People, the brains behind it, the creators were coming to see how their baby had grown and how you'd taken it on. So nerve-wracking as well, I imagine.
It was, but they, they were just the most down-to-earth, supportive, lovely people. It was great. You instantly just felt like, okay, you just totally relax around them, and a few of us, myself included, got a chance to actually perform with them as well. So that was
just amazing, brilliant.
Amazing.
Now, the thing that we haven't actually explained is that you are currently touring with The Play It Goes Wrong, but you are essentially understudying multiple roles as well as playing your own role. And because of that, and because we are still seeing the effects of what we like to call the unwelcome guest, yes, we're not in the full throes of it anymore, thank goodness, but it is still very much around. I'm sure that's probably resulted in a little bit more of you playing different roles, because it's still going to be around and there's going to be perhaps a bit more illness in casts. But not only on tour, but I do believe you've also ended up in the West End doing some covering work.
I did, yeah. No, it was. Oh my goodness, yeah. It was one for the bucket list, certainly. It was fun. Yeah, I did. I got to do it twice now, where I've got to cover one of those roles in the West End, and it was, everything went. The concept of being an understudy is was very scary at first. I'd never done anything like that before, and I knew I'd be covering three first covers. I'd be covering three initial roles where if the principal actor or actress, well, in my case actor I suppose, was off, then I would cover that role. I'd be the first one to cover that role, and then I also had two second covers where if that actor and the cover are off, then I would have to step in. So between, I think there's four of us, and me and this my friend Will Taylor, who's the other understudy, we would cover sort of 5 roles each. And then we our second covers are corresponding to each other. So you just got we found the easiest thing I found was just know all of them. Like just know, do it until you could like recite the show backwards, and that's kind of how it went about really. I mean, I'm quite fortunate in that I can sort of pick lines up quite quickly and I can retain them pretty well. But I found every line learning app under the sun I was using, just playing it over and over and over again. And of course, I mean, the thing that we did do, which not every show does, but it was quite useful in this case, is that when we're not going on as an understudy, we are actually working as ASMs, assistant stage managers, and around the back. So we're doing, there's a lot of stuff going on backstage. It's, if you could see the back of it, not a single person leaves the stage, actor or otherwise, without, and just goes and sits down. So it's very collaborative, and I imagine when the originals were first doing it in the early days when they were doing it with the Red Lion and Edinburgh Fringe, I think they probably just do all of that themselves, which just seems like a phenomenal feat of just doing all the naps and the sound effects and the shifting of the set and the props all by themselves. God, it boggles the mind. But you do have to keep it up. I mean, they do let us do some show watches, which is great. So we literally just go into the auditorium, near the exit in case we have to suddenly get hurled on stage halfway through or something, which did actually happen to my friend Will when we were doing it. He was doing a show watch, getting ready, and then suddenly they hooked him out of the auditorium, and next thing you know, he was on. So it can happen at any moment. And yes, as you said, Sam, that the COVID was, it's still very much a bit of an issue, and even if someone isn't necessarily physically having symptoms, they're quite rigorous with their testing. We would be taking tests, every day before going in. We have to send all the results in and stuff every time just to make sure we're good. And it happened. One particular case was when we were doing it with the original cast, and unfortunately, one of the characters did test positive, and also his cover tested positive as well. So I had to get thrown on as a second cover. I think it was opening night at Newcastle, and it was absolutely terrifying. But it was absolutely amazing because I was there. Because normally they would occasionally put some understudies on throughout the week anyway. But this was a case where it was just me and the entire original cast. So I was phenomenally starstruck. It was very, very exciting, and they were absolutely brilliant. It literally felt like I was just being, handed from person to person. They just took such great care of us. They knew exactly what to do. They knew we maybe weren't entirely clued in, and they made it seem effortless. So they were fantastically supportive. They were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But you do kind of catch yourself being a bit like, in moments of great hysteria during those scenes, you get part of my brain is going, Henry Lewis is shouting at me from the TV. Yeah, exciting. So, they go, no, sorry, I'm in the camera. I've got to go back in the character. So,
it's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting because, I mean, ever since The Unwelcome Guest, the value of understudies has never been more important. But I think going before that, I mean, I understudied I was shortly out of drama school, which was quite some time ago. Thank you, Sam. But no, I hadn't been out of drama school long. And I understudied, and I literally was understudying 2 or 3 parts on a production of Dry Rot at the Lyric in the West End. And I had a tiny little bit to do, which was a voiceover of a horse race. Oh. And then the rest of the night, I just sat down in my dressing room and read a lot, learned to play backgammon. Now, I was understudying a wonderful character, wonderful actor called Derek Royal, who people will know if they're fans of Fawlty Towers. He dies in Fawlty Towers, and he is the actor that is carried around in wicker baskets and thrown in cupboards.
Yeah. Dead body.
Derek was an amazing, absolutely amazing clown, physical performer. And he did loads of tricks loads of pratfalls and stuff during the show. He would fall out of cupboards, slide over bars, forward rolls off of bar stools. And the joy was I was understudying him and he was never off. I did shadow him one night, dressed as a jockey. He played a jockey in it. And I did literally stand outside a door going, and Derek goes, if I feel icky, you're going on, mate. And he was going to shove me straight through the door. So it was like, oh my God. But every night I would go down to his dressing room, and he would chat and teach me stuff, and so I owe a lot of all the clowning stuff that I learned to Derek. But then later, a few years ago, I understudied on Steptoe and Son, Murder at Oil Drum Lane, playing Albert, and I did go on for the lovely actor, the late Harry Dickman, a wonderful, wonderful actor. And that was 11 o'clock in the morning. I would go in at night, sit in the dressing room, go home. I was literally a walking understudy. But 11 o'clock in the morning, I got the call and went, "You're on. Get your ass in the theatre. We're having an understudy run." And I literally got there, went on for Harry, and it was a major role. It's Albert Steptoe. It's he and the other actor. We were never off. And that was, but the same thing. They looked after me. They had, and even those days, and even then, it was to be an understudy had a slight sort of, oh, you're only an understudy. But now, I think with musical theatre and with work like Mischief, an understudy is not like that. You're not. It's not looked down. You've got to be ready to go, literally at the drop of a hat. You know the stuff. You're in it, and I think, with musical theatre having swings and ensembles covering, I think the whole, I don't know what you think, Harry, but I mean, I think the whole attitude towards understudies has completely changed, because you're not just a cover. You've got to be as good as, if not better, because you're carrying 4 or 5 roles in your head. I mean, I didn't go out in the end, but I was in a national tour of the birthday party, and then the Unwelcome Guest hit and we never went out. But I was understudying every male role, so there's only 2 females in the birthday party. So I was starting to learn, as you say. I could have done the whole play, but in the end, I didn't. We never got there in the end because we were 5 days into rehearsal and lockdown started. But I think the whole attitude towards understudies has completely changed. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a big responsibility. You've got to be, and you really feel like it never feels like a chore. You really feel very passionate about it, and there's a huge amount of support amongst all of us, and they don't just stick us in a corner. We're very much involved with the rest of the team as well, and the principal cast and the backstage team as well. We're all in it together, and you do, even doing something like just doing backstage stuff, for example, which we do the nights we aren't going on. The feeling of messing up and making someone look silly on stage, like, no, this, I don't want that. I can't let that happen.
That's so, yeah.
It was so bad, on stage if something doesn't quite, go wrong in the right way. So that's always a disaster, But I mean, that is the one saving grace, actually, is that if something does go actually wrong on stage, you wouldn't know from an audience point of view. Everything's going wrong. So, and that, occasionally that might have happened.
I have to say, it's funny you say that. I saw Peter Pan Goes Wrong. I reviewed it
brilliant.
Years back, and we had the stage manager come on in the interval and say, "Ladies and gentlemen, we just want to announce that for the second half, the role of blah 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 will be played by someone different," because they'd had an accident backstage. But as you say, the nature of what you're doing, people were going, "Oh no, it's part of it," and I'm then sat there writing a review going, "Now, I'm familiar with the show, but this isn't normally in it. But is this just because it's a slightly different version?" So you're very much caught in 2 minds. So as you say, if you're going to have something go wrong in any kind of show, it's probably the right one to do it, because potentially you can get away without anyone knowing.
It's true. And we have many a time. But yes, no. As you were saying, Drew. I've been really impressed by the work ethic by everyone, actually, and everyone's just, everyone is just really giving their all into it, and are just so supportive to us when we do have to go on, which is great. I feel like I can just go and someone ask them or ring them if they're not in or something and say, like for example, when I was about to do with the original cast, and I was doing a character that Jonathan Sayer was going to be playing, but he was unwell at the time. He was just the most so supportive. I could text him, call him, say, do I go in front or behind the chaise longue at this point? Something as simple as that, but it could make all the difference. He was just so patient with me and just took me through everything I needed to know, and it was brilliant, And then so you never feel like it's a bother because they get it, they totally get it. Everyone, tour cast and original cast alike, everyone just got what the need was, and what needed to be done to do the best job that we could. So you never felt like you were being a bother, but you do definitely feel like, right, I've got to make sure I'm on top of this, and you always feel like oh yeah, I know this, it's okay, I could do that, and they go, oh, you're on. I'm like, I don't know this, oh god, it's you think you know it until they tell you to do it, and then you're like, oh no, there's so much stuff I've got to remember, and it's a very active show. I mean, the parts I cover they're very active, and there's holding things up and falling off things and things like that. Some characters are hugely prop heavy, so you've got to make sure that you know where all those props are and when to put them and move them around and make sure that this place. So it's like, it's very intricate. It's like a piece of choreography. You've got to make sure that everything's where it is on stage, and it has to be done in a way that is seemingly accidental. And I think that's the biggest thing we learned, actually. I think is that there's a real fine balance between acknowledging the audience and working within the constraint of that. I think that was something that I learned best probably by watching the other people as well, and just sort of seeing how that worked when I was doing show watches, because I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it seemed like it would be funnier to kind of egg it a little bit and make it a bit more obvious that something's gone wrong, and it didn't. I realized that wasn't quite the right way of doing it, and the funniest time is when they want to do those things, but they can't because of the audience. They don't want to break that illusion, and so that was really valuable to learn of that. Just everything's fine, but you can't scream or do anything like that. You can't acknowledge it. So that was a really useful lesson, and that's very much clowning. That's very much that kind of using that restrictive element, and they did a lot of that in rehearsals, and they did that as well in the form of games and things like that, where we had a certain objective, but we had an obstacle, and we had to try and overcome it without people knowing there was an obstacle, that sort of thing. And it was a lot more intricate than I thought. You watch the show and you just think like, go up there and have a laugh and just mess around, but it's incredibly disciplined, I'd say. You've got to really look after yourself as well and make sure you don't, because if you don't do a thing in the right way that we've been taught, like sort of hanging off a balcony or something, you're going to hurt. You're going to wind up getting yourself hurt. So and we can't really happen to us, because we are the people that go on if people do get hurt. So if we get hurt ourselves, it's not ideal. Yeah. You definitely feel a huge amount of responsibility, and it's such, at least in my experience, it's been such a brilliant sort of group of people that you really want to. It's not just, it doesn't feel like a job. It just feels like, I really want this to be fantastic.
So I guess the preparation side of things that you touched on there is also something quite new for you, regardless of how long you've been performing or what you've done in the past. Every different show has certain ways of preparing or building up. So as you said there, sort of playing these games with members of the cast as part of a warm-up or as part of a learning curve. This is an example where you have hugely got to trust your fellow cast members, because there are elements, as you say, where you could potentially get hurt. I mean, it's not that drastic. It's not like you're doing setting people on fire necessarily on stage, or having these huge, enormous stunts like you might on a film set. But at the same time, there is still a lot of dependency on each other to make things work and to make things safe and to make ththings fluid, I guess, is another thing. Did you find that preparation period was so totally different to, for example, so to backtrack a little, you and I met doing a musical called Game Over, which I've mentioned on the podcast a couple of times before. And again, it's incredibly unique. So this show is about depression and mental health and suicide. So quite dark subjects. However, with an incredibly humorous spin put to them, and not in a way that makes it inappropriate or in bad taste. It's very, very well put together show, which we did a few times. Very enjoyable. So preparing for that, obviously, it is different to on a personal level. The way I prepared for that was different to anything I've ever done before, because actually needed to do some research and understand elements of mental health. And the producer director of that show was very much involved in that world. He'd worked in that side of things, so he was able to help us to talk about things like that, so we had the right kind of view to it and the right kind of understanding to be able to perform the roles appropriately. I guess that then comes across in something like this, obviously in a very different way, but you are having to prepare for something which you probably, even if you've done clowning or even if you've done things like it, the nature of this is so unique that it must have been a really new preparation process for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it was like nothing I'd ever done before. And you know, the rehearsal process was so not necessarily, you know, the standard, let's do a scene and then go over it again and, you know, repeat it. It was, I don't know, I suppose the best way I can think of to describe it is it's like learning a piece of choreography. You know, you're learning where you need to be, where you need to stand, and then you can sort of flavor that with intention, you know, as you move along. But clowning was a big part of it, and we were doing a lot of games. That, you know, director Sean, who was a brilliant director, was taking us through lots of different kind of exercises and things, like a scenario, it's sort of improv scenarios, you know, typically, but which would involve a lot of physicality, because the ability for us to think on our feet was very important, because even though the action on stage is rehearsed, a lot of it needs to appear as if it's being done, you know, on the cuff, and every night's supposed to be opening night. You know, it's not like they've been doing it for a while. This is their opening night, their only night that they're going to be, you know, in the world of that play. So yeah, there was an awful lot of layering to it, because as well, of course, you're playing a character who's playing a character. So there are lots more layers that I'm used to, of like when to strip back that character and let the actor you're playing be revealed underneath, and when to put that wall back up again, and you know, when the action can continue. There was a lot of sort of building up that and developing these characters first. So we developed the actors first, and it was a great thing we did, where we came and introduced ourselves as if we were auditioning for the play, for the play that they're trying to promote, Murder at Havisham Manor. So we would introduce ourselves as our characters, and they just put us through the ringer and just tell us to do all kinds of, you know, horrendous things like, oh yeah, let's see your break dancing routine in, or you know, or something like that. And you just yes and.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that Sean Turner directing?
It is, yes, that's right.
Yeah, he directed me in a production of the Red Lion tour a couple of years back.
Wow.
Absolutely brilliant director, I have to say. Yeah.
No,
stunning.
No, it's really great.
Stunning director. Stunning. Harry, it's been an absolute joy, a pleasure. I know you've just landed in Sheffield. We've seen that you haven't even unpacked your suitcase. Sat in the green room. I think it's probably the most theatrical interview we've had so far. You know, this man has just landed, whips out his webcam, sits in the corner of the green room, and is absolutely brilliant. But we're not going to let you go away, because we're going to throw this at you now. And I mean, it seems almost ridiculous asking someone who's doing the play that goes wrong to tell us an anecdote, which usually features something going wrong. But could you wind up and telling us an anecdote, a funny story, something that has happened to you? May not be on play that goes wrong, but somewhere, just to wind us up before we say a sad goodbye, because it's been a lovely time with you, mate. But over to you, Harry.
I think I have got one from the play that goes wrong. It ironically wasn't necessarily something going wrong. It was more one of the actors, you know, having a bit of fun with us, let's say. There's a part of the show, and I'll try and keep this as spoiler-free as I can, where there's an actor who is largely obscured from the audience, you know, but is on stage. And it was, I think it was quite early days, actually. So I think I was I'd only been on a couple of times, and essentially, you know, they're not involved. They're not directly involved in the action. Of course, we give them a little bit of opportunity to, you know, be a bit naughty. So essentially, what we're doing is lots of actions going on, lots of speeches happening, and pretty much I'll keep his name out of it, but spare him. But he would essentially punctuate our sentences by farting. He would quite literally like wait until we just about finished our line and just let out these amazingly loud farts. You know, like I couldn't believe it. Like just amazingly within the confines of the stage. It never reached the audience, thankfully. But like, so we would have this point where I don't know, I just make up a line or something. It'd be like, you know, it was you. I know it was you. You were the killer. They just hear this little thing in the background. You're like, he's gonna just every time, and you try and make, and we are all unconsciously like not leaving any gaps in our sentences so he wouldn't stick a fart in. Wow. I know he was a naughty man, but very, very funny.
What's incredible control? I mean,
my God, the sphincter on that man must be extraordinary. It's a finely tuned instrument.
And that is just the most. I mean, if we had like quotes from our episodes to sort of promote, sphincter like a finely tuned instrument, I think would either completely alienate us from ever having an audience again, or bring in a whole new load of fans and followers. So
proud.
What a way to
brilliant title for an autobiography, isn't it? I mean,
you got that one. You have that one for free.
Harry, mate, it's been an absolute joy catching up, seeing you. Thank you very much for joining us. And as Drew said, what a dramatic and theatrical way to join us, to jump off the plane, get off the train, run into the green, and then you're with us. It really means the world that you've joined us. Thank you so much. And congratulations on everything you're doing. And we wish you all the best for the rest of the tour. And hopefully many things going on after that. Who knows? They might go, well, when you did those couple of stand-ins in the West End, pretty good. Why not come and stick with us? So we'll keep everything crossed for you, mate. But
thank you very much, guys. It's been
massive thank you. We'll catch up again with you soon. But hopefully we'll be seeing you on stage soon.
Yeah, fingers crossed. All right, thanks very much, guys. It's been brilliant.
Cheers.
Enjoy Sheffield. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
I mean, thankfully, how amazing. You know, Harry arrives in Sheffield after travelling in the heat and the dust of the day, throws himself in the corner of the green room. You can't get more theatrical than that.
Oh, I mean,
that was great fun, though. Great fun.
What a brilliant guy. And having worked with him, I know just how talented he is. He's a superb singer and musician. But also I've seen sort of his clowning ability, so I know how perfect he is in what he's doing at the moment. And you can hear quite how passionate he is about it, for sure.
I mean, you know, I've seen it. It's great. I mean, it can't be anything but just enormous fun to do. You know, it's obviously, as he said, you know, incredibly disciplined to get that stuff right night after night after night. But obviously they do have a giggle from time to time, as his story was testament. But I mean, you can just tell that he's just having a lovely time, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? Really is.
And you know, so highly professional, bearing in mind that he's having a great time with it, really enjoying it, yet could be going on at any moment in one of, did he say 5 different roles?
5 different roles, yeah.
Insane. I mean, we've both done similar things. I was in a musical where I was swing for the 4 male leads, and you mentioned a few different times where you've gone on as understudy. And it is incredibly difficult and it really, really demanding, and you do have to keep on top of it. So to then be able to go on and enjoy yourself immensely doing it, huge kudos to the man. Very, very
bonus, real bonus.
Very impressive.
And to them as well, as we said, because hats off to Mischief, because it has become an enormous, phenomenon. Yet they're still very professional, very caring of their performers, and they haven't become terribly corporate. They've kept that fun entity going. So that's, I mean, hats off to them as well. You know,
it's a real case of remember where you came from, isn't it? Like, don't
brilliant. Brilliant way of putting it. Yeah.
Harry is certainly testament to that, the way he talks about the previous cast and everyone involved in the creation process. Just another fabulous guest, Drew. We're very lucky.
We are very lucky. We're really lucky. Yeah. Oh, I'm talking from where you're coming from. Where are you going next week? What you got coming up next week?
You've taken over king of the segues here.
I'm getting a bit above myself now.
So another sort of all over the place week for me. Bit more modelling work coming up. Preparation for a brand new show. So the immersive dining company, the Dinner Theatre. I'm doing a show that I've never done before. Very soon. So learning the script and the sort of the workings behind that. So that should be really good fun. And generally just the usual, mate. Just bits of voiceover, bits of self-tapes and prepping for everything. What about you? You've got another show coming up in a month or so, haven't you?
I have. I mean, I'm not going to start dipping my toes into that quite yet, but that is. I mean, I think I've had the third or fourth draft of the script. I think there's another one coming. And at some point, I think we're going to have a table read of it, so we're all got the same version. But this week, to finish up with, I've got a couple of days out in the open again at the London Business School with some children's entertainment there.
Cool.
And then pootled down to Bristol for a private birthday party, a Fawlty Towers birthday party
very nice.
at the weekend. So, yeah, that'll be fun. And that's with Verona. Verona will be giving her Sybil, so we'll be working together. That'll be nice, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds like you've got some fun stuff coming up, which is always the best part of what we do.
Always.
And speaking of fun, why don't we have some more fun next week and do another one of these? What do you reckon?
Well, I'm up for it if you are, mate. Yeah,
of
definitely.
Course.
Definitely.
I'll raise a glass. We shall cheers to that one. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers with the orange juice.
Cheers, everyone at home. Thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed listening to Harry. Superb guest. And next week, I'm afraid you're just stuck with me and the old man, but we're trying our best to make that entertaining as well.
We'll try.
See you everyone next time.
Sam. Take care, everyone.
Bye. Thanks again for tuning in. We hope you've enjoyed watching this episode of Drewling Samantics.
If you have, then please consider subscribing to our channel and you'll get notified every time a new video is released. Don't forget, we're also available as audio only. Just search Drewling Samantics in any good podcast app.
Please support us on other social media too. We're on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and all our links and handles are on screen now.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so please share with your family and friends and we'll be eternally grateful. Stay safe and we'll see you next time.